Have you ever found yourself in a storm, or perhaps one is approaching, plus experiencing Easter in a deeper way? All this and more with Pastor Zach Freitas from Freshwater Church, starting now. Well, I'm here with Zach Freitas, Pastor Zach of Freshwater Church in Waconia, soon to be St. Bonifacius. And Zach is the husband of an administrator here at Chapel Hill, Caitlin Freitas, our middle school director. And I've known Zach and Caitlin for quite a long time, but I invited Zach to join me today because we are heading into the week of Easter. And just this past Sunday, Zach delivered just a phenomenal message that really postures our heart to get ready for hearing more about Holy Week, but also that relationship with Christ that we have. And I wanted Zach to share more with our audience about that message. So welcome, Zach.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. And Chapel Hill has had such a great impact and is still having a great impact on my whole family with all my kids here and my wife getting to serve here. I'm very thankful for the school.
We're thankful for her and for you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she was asking me last night, she's like, what are you going to talk about on the podcast? And I was like, some stuff. She goes, no, really, tell me. Like she's afraid I'm gonna embarrass her, so I try not to. But honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you bet. Well, let's get a little background information out for our audience. A little bit of where you grew up, how you got into ministry and your family, a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up kind of all over the country. My teenage years were in California. Came out to Minnesota to go to Crown College. No, I tried it one time in 6th grade, didn't go well, so didn't do it. But came
One and
out,
done.
Yeah, pretty much. Came out here for college, and that changed my life a lot in that time. And married Kate, a Minnesota girl, so I've lived here now longer than anywhere, and God really called me into ministry in that season. And so I've been a pastor now for 11 years, I think, 12 years, somewhere in there. And been at Freshwater now for 8. And we love the Waconia, Southwest Metro area.
Yeah, and you're in the middle of a big project.
We are, yeah. We are building a whole new facility just outside Waconia, right next to Crown College, actually, which is hilarious because I went to school there and now I'm 200 yards away with our new facility, but it's double the size of what we currently are at, and we're just maxed out. So we're super excited moving there in just a few months. And
there's such growth out that way and such a hunger and a need for another wonderful church. So that's great. Yeah. And I'm grateful to be an attender at Freshwater. This past week, you shared such a great message, and we have a picture behind me that I grabbed out of our hallway here because it was so perfect for our topic. And that is such a reflection of Christ's genuine love and care for us in the trials, in the storm. So let's talk about your message and how that can be really applied and relevant to our families, our audience today. And you centered it on John 6. And I'm just remembering sitting and just thinking of this whole scene, which I think you paint so perfectly, of, we're in the boat, we're in that struggle in the storm, and he's there and he is all powerful. Yeah. So let's just jump in a little bit with that message.
Yeah, so Jesus walking on water is such a familiar miracle story if you've been around the faith or grown up in it, that we've heard that, and our culture even sometimes references it, and it can be kind of this like, oh yeah, I get it, he walked on water, like cool. But when you really like focus in on it, which is what we did this week, there's so much beauty and depth in it. And we've been going through the Gospel of John, and so we're in chapter 6 now. Jesus had just fed a huge crowd, and he sends the disciples in the boat across the lake. So they're doing what Jesus told them to do, and he's going to be there and to pray, and their storm comes. They're up all night rowing against this storm. It's probably about 4 a.m. that Jesus comes walking out. And John has some detail in here, but Matthew gives quite a bit more of the story. And so we also jumped into Matthew 14. And it shows that they're terrified. They think it's a ghost. And Jesus is just walking out on the water and says to them, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. And in the middle of that, when he says, it is I, really what he says in the original language is I am. And so one of those titles.
That language that you gave.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the original language in the Greek, it's 2 different words, ego and me. And how Greek works, similar to Spanish, is that the verb supplies the subject or the pronoun. So you don't have to say the I, right? You can just say it. But in instances in the Bible when Jesus is emphatically saying that I am, he adds that pronoun, the ego. And so that's what he does here. So it's not just a simple like, hey guys, it's me, don't worry, don't be afraid. Like he is saying, I am. And of course, that's a reference to how God refers to himself in Exodus 3 out of the burning bush, of the I am who I am, one of those titles. And Jesus makes these I am statements and throughout the Gospel of John. There's 7 of them. We're going to get into the first one actually this next week, the I am the bread of life. But this is one of those moments. Again, he's standing on the water in the middle of this big storm. The disciples are terrified of the storm, of him thinking it's a ghost, and he says, I am. It's a proclamation of his identity while he's displaying his power.
I am God. I am
exactly
the great I am.
Yeah, and he's saying he's not just a God or look what I'm doing, but it's really what he's tying it to is their whole history of faith, the God of the Hebrew Bible up to that point. And so it's the I am who I am. And he's standing where only he can stand, out on the water in the middle of the storm, declaring and showing his identity.
And it's a profound declaration of him as God, because it's not casual, like it's me, don't be afraid, it's just me, it's I am in that moment of being on the water. And so let's take that and compare that to life. We're in the water, we're in the storm, and God's there and says that to us. How do you apply that?
Absolutely, because what I think just stuck out to me so much in this is that the disciples are doing what Jesus told them to do. Right? Like he told them, get in the boat, go across the lake, and then this windstorm comes upon them. Suddenly, Sea of Galilee happens a lot. They're up all night, like they're doing what Jesus told them to do, and it's difficult and it's hard. They're rowing literally against the wind all night. And I think that speaks to us in so many moments of life that, hey, God, I'm doing what I thought you called me to do. Why is this so difficult? You know, like I thought your burden is light, your yoke is easy, but why is it so hard right now? Why do I'm rowing harder, I'm trying and doing what you've called me, raising my family the way I think you've called me to, living out my faith in these ways. But this storm comes upon them. Clearly they're doing what Jesus called them to do. And I think that's because there's a greater lesson for them to learn in that. You know, Jesus shows up out on the water and they're terrified. And I think sometimes God will show up in our life and we don't quite clearly see that it's him yet. And we get terrified in that moment. And then he speaks to them and says, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. And that's what he can say in those moments of don't be afraid, because he's God displaying his power and his ability in that.
What's your thought? Why do you think it's not easier when we're called to do God's work and it's hard?
Yeah.
And you feel like you're placing your trust in him every day and following his will, but it's hard. Why do you think in this passage it reflects his love, but why does he make it hard sometimes for us, or allow it to be hard, I should say?
Yeah, I think that through those difficult moments is where we mature and we learn things and we realize how I was trying to do things myself or my old ways. And, Bible talks a lot about that, of perseverance and through trials. And so I think this is a testing moment with Jesus, with his disciples, to teach them that of, you're doing what I called you to do, but you're trying to do it by your own effort. You're just trying to row really hard against the storm. And, the end of the story is that Jesus gets in the boat with them and the storm stops. And it says actually immediately they got to the shore. Now, was that like a literal immediately? It also could say soon, another way to translate it. But the waters were calmed and they got to where they were going when they had Jesus with them, not just them on their own trying to do it, row harder, make it happen. But the answer really is to be with Christ, and that he's then smooths that out. Yeah. So I think to answer your question, like we encounter those difficult moments in life when, I'm doing what God has called me to do, but I'm trying to do it by my own power, trying to just grit my teeth, make it all about what I'm doing, how I'm raising my kids, how I'm handling these situations. Yeah. But we're not perfect. We don't know everything. We can't handle it all. And we have to always invite him into the boat with us throughout those moments.
And thinking about that moment with Peter, you had a great illustration of Peter. Like, of course it's Peter.
Yeah.
He's out there and he's grabbing the hand of Jesus. Yeah. And you would think that, okay, I'm on water. I'm sold. I'm not going to worry. But he gets distracted even in that, and starts to sink. And that's, again, another great application to how in life we get distracted and we do start to sink a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, of course it's Peter that said that, and this is what Matthew includes, that they see it's Jesus. He says it's me, relax. And Peter's like, if it's you, let me come out to you on the water. And of course, Peter would do that. But when he starts walking on the water, we kind of skip to the part that he sank. But it truly is profound and amazing that Peter walked on the water
Yeah.
with Jesus. Like he got to experience the impossible in the middle of this storm, still the wind and the waves. He's walking out there, and then, he gets distracted. It says he saw the wind, he saw the waves, the effect of it, and he took his eyes off of Jesus.
Don't we do that sometimes?
So much.
We want to control and take things into our own hands. Like, I got to stay above water.
Yeah.
Not thinking that Jesus already has us.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's Peter, again, literally looking at Jesus on the water, experiencing the impossible, and he still got distracted by fear. Right. How much more so are we going to in our day-to-day lives where we're doing what he's called us to do, and we feel God's presence maybe in our life, but we're not literally seeing Jesus out in front of us, and of course we're gonna get distracted. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of are a little too hard on ourselves sometimes.
I wonder if God gave us this image, this picture of his love for us, the most incredible possible moment we could have with the creator of the universe on water, and showing still, I understand human nature is going to cause you to become distracted or sink, but take heart, I am with you. Yeah. Just seeing at the most beautiful moment, you would think he would be fully sold out. Like, I'm up, I'm with you. But it helps us know, like, even in those profound times in life, we are human. Absolutely. And we can get distracted.
Yeah. And what I really love is how Jesus responds to Peter in that moment.
Yes.
Because it says that Peter saw the wind and the waves, and beginning to sink, he cries out, Lord, save me. And what stuck out to me so much in this is that it says beginning to sink, that he's distracted, he's letting fear take over, he's taking his eyes off of Jesus, but he doesn't just drop in the water, which is how I would picture it. Like, okay, he's like somehow levitating on the water and gets distracted, and then it's like, poof, over, like dunk tank kind of moment. Right. But Jesus is fully in control of this moment. And so he's actually letting Peter begin to sink into his fear, really, to wake him up in that moment.
To realize it.
And I think that speaks to, as we're in those difficult moments and it can get harder, it's because we've taken our eyes off of Jesus, and he lets us begin to sink into it to wake us up. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, Peter cries out, Lord, save me. Simple statement, but that's repentance. That's the heart of all of us coming to faith in Jesus for the first time and every day of, Lord, save me. And then Jesus does. He grabs him. Immediately, it says he caught Peter in the water and pulls him out. He didn't abandon him. He didn't let him go all the way in the water. Okay, figure it out, Peter. Of course you messed up. Like, that's our reaction because we think, and I think a lot because we've experienced harsh authority figures, we've experienced failure, all these things in life, that then we project that of, oh man, I messed up. God's gonna be mad at me. God's gonna abandon me here. And we're like, of course I'm gonna drop in the water. I'm gonna swim back to the boat and start over, and I gotta work my way back to Jesus. But that's not what happens. It says that he caught him immediately and then has a gentle rebuke to him. And he says, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Mm-hmm. And again, I've always read that harsh, like, oh, he's like, Peter, get in his face, Mm-hmm. But it's not to shame Peter. Again, they're out on the water away from the boat. It's not for everyone. It's directly to him. And I think he's saying it gently of, why did you doubt? He's asking why. Mm-hmm. He's not saying, what did you do, Peter? How did you get here, Peter? Of course. No, he says, why did you doubt? Mm-hmm. And he pulls him out of the water and he's with him. Yeah. And I just think the heart of this passage is a message to us that it's not about doing things for Jesus to prove ourselves. And then when we mess up, I got to do more. It's about just being with Jesus. Yeah. Out on the water in the middle of the storm, trusting in him, knowing that he's still there with us. Or if we're like the disciples still in the boat, the other ones, inviting him in. Because that's how it ends, that Peter and Jesus get into the boat, and it says they all worshiped Jesus, saying, truly you are the Son of God. Mm-hmm. It's about being with Jesus and having him in the boat, because then he calms the storm and gets us to where he's called us to go.
So when we're having a life storm, that response, it could be one of many things that we decide to do. We could try to row to the shore ourselves. Yeah. We could just sit and wait the storm out. Yeah. Hopefully hang on for dear life. Yeah. Or we could be with Jesus and worship and let him calm around us. How do you talk with people that come to you as a pastor, like, I'm in a storm and I'm crying out to God and I can't hear God? Where is God? What do you say to those people that are in it and just waiting for Jesus to rescue them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that God speaks to us in different ways, through his word, through worship, and through the community of other believers. And so my question is, are you in community? Do you have that support? Are you seeking God in his word, not just to learn facts about him, but to encounter him? Are you leaning into the church body and seeking and worshiping and praying after God? A lot of times, we're waiting for an audible voice. We're waiting for the light to turn green to tell us when to go here, kind of thing. But God speaks to us in those other ways. But sometimes we do have, that wall moment, the dark night of the soul, as many church fathers have talked about, where we do feel that separation from God and we're in a hard moment. And the purpose is to bring us through it, to have greater depth in our faith. And so it's okay to not get the immediate response. We're so used to immediate social media, everything, immediate answers. I'm gonna Google it or Siri or AI it and I get the thing, but there's an okayness to being in the waiting and to going through it, because again, that gives us greater maturity. And so I think I encourage people, like, don't toss everything out because you don't get an instant answer or it's not instantly better. Push into it, seek community, seek God and worship, and God will speak to you in that. Because commonly, like, there's different types of struggles, things that happen to us, and then there's things that we do because of our sin and our own issues and things. And in those, we want to run from God and then work our way back. But that's the opposite of what we should do. We need to just cry out to him like Peter, Lord, save me, and push into that worship. And when we actually do that, we experience his grace. And we experience his presence in really profound ways. So that's always my encouragement.
I would say that I've lived that in different situations in my own life. Sometimes something happens, whether it's at work or family, whatever. And I have just gone to the Lord on my knees. I remember teaching many years ago in public school district, and I had just a rough day for whatever reason. And this is one example. Like, I've had a few of these, but it was just a rough day, and I felt overwhelmed. I felt kind of hopeless. Like, what am I doing? I need to get through this. And I literally went under my desk in my classroom. And I had a Bible that I kept it on my desk back even in public school. And I just started getting on my knees and reading scripture and praying and crying to the Lord. It was during my prep time. And literally within minutes or half hour, I received a couple different, an email from a parent that was encouraging, a moment with a student that was a breakthrough. I just felt God answering that prayer so quickly. In his own way. Like you mentioned, he answers in many different ways, but he knows exactly what we need to lift us in that moment. It might not be make all of this go away, but it's the piece that we need to get through to that next moment and the next moment that he shows up. And he is there. He doesn't leave us. He doesn't forsake us. His word is true. And if we're Bible-believing Christians, we can't doubt his word. And his word tells us that.
Absolutely. I've had so many moments like that where I want to quit ministry, I'm done, or whatever it is. And like God gives a little bit of encouragement for that day, for a season. And we're like, oh God, can't you just give me all the answers and then I'll be fine? But like the truth is, we wouldn't be. Like, look at the Israelites in the wilderness. They keep messing up and they visibly saw God doing stuff. Like, that's human nature. We need not just the one and done kind of response. We need the little bit all the time, right? His mercies are new every day. And it's those kind of moments that we cry out to him and God responds and encourages us.
Calling out and waiting on his timing. And looking for God moments. That shows that he's there.
And it's a posture of humility. And I love how you're saying that you were on your knees, and I pray that way often. And that's really become an important part of my faith. And I think we're all got different kind of streams of Christianity influence within Protestantism or not, but it's something that I think is really lost in a lot of modern Christian experience of not posturing ourselves physically before God. And I think there's beauty in doing that, of literally being on our knees and humbling ourselves before God and letting our body match the posture of our heart and what we're experiencing, and not just like keep your chin up and act all tough, I think there is beauty in that too.
I agree with you. I think that you hear a lot, Jesus is my best friend, and that's wonderful, but that can bring him to an equal level, which he's not. He's the King of Kings. And so as a pastor, as a dad, what advice would you give to families leading their children to cultivate that reverence that humility before the Lord
Yeah.
as they grow in their faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I'm seeing a big movement of, especially with Gen Z, which I'm really encouraged by, is more of that desire for the holiness of God and the sacredness. So like the scholarly words that have always been around, theological terms of transcendence and immanence. That God is transcendent, he's God, he's fully other, he's completely holy, and then immanence, that God is close and cares.
Yes.
We've focused a lot on the immanence within Christianity past 20, 30 years. Jesus is my best friend, those kind of things. We're like, which is good, but we've lost the holiness. And I think as parents, we can teach that because it goes hand in hand. It's not one or the other. And when you get into Holy Week, like Good Friday is so important to focus on what had to happen in the depth of our sin. And that's because of the transcendence of God, that he's fully holy and other, and we are inadequate. But he died in our place. He conquered death. He came close. He stepped into our world. That's the immanence and the closeness. And so I think as a parent, and when you approach that with your kids, is covering both sides of that. Not jumping to the one, because when we just focus on the immanence, the closeness, it feels good, but we don't have the depth to understand how profound it truly is. When we don't understand his holiness and the depth of our sin, then his love isn't that big of a deal. And so we have to teach both to our kids, the full gospel message. The other day at church, we sang part of the old hymn about the blood of Jesus, how precious the flow that made me white as snow. And my oldest, Selah, this week was like, Dad, why did we sing that? It's kind of gross, like blood and stuff, And so that was an opportunity for me to explain, like, how good it is and what the blood represented in the Old Testament and all those kind of moments, and not just be like, oh, it's just something, Jesus loves you. That would be making it a shallow moment instead of pressing into the depth. And so I think embracing some of those moments as parents and bringing the full scope of the gospel speaks to that.
What moments do you recall as a kid when you entered into the Good Friday, Saturday, Sunday, growing up? Your dad's a pastor.
Yeah.
What were some of the moments that really stuck with you that made the miracle of Easter so real?
Yeah.
You.
It's funny. So my dad's pastor, has been for a long time.
Yeah.
Phenomenal preacher. He's a great man of God. But the tradition that we grew up in didn't really do much for Easter or Lent or anything. That was very foreign concepts. And so it really was later on in college and thereafter that I started to experience some different Good Friday things or Stations of the Cross. And so now, as a church, we do a Good Friday experience. It's a family-friendly walkthrough thing to, appreciate the gospel. We do Ash Wednesday to grieve our sin and our humanity. And so it's really actually been later in life that I've been able to experience those. But what I have learned and what I'm doing with my kids is that kids thrive in structure and routine. Like that's how anything thrives and grows, right? And so I think as a parent, embracing some of those elements of the church calendar of Good Friday, Stations, things like that are a way for our kids to have some of that structured discipleship over years. You can get lost in that and it can become an empty practice for sure. And that's happened plenty throughout church history. But I think for me, seeing and experiencing that, that's what I want my kids. And so as a family, we go through the Good Friday experience together every year. We talk about it. We have those resurrection eggs, that set that like tells the gospel and all these little eggs you open every day. And, so it's not just focusing on the Easter basket celebration of Easter, but it's all those parts. It's really that I was lacking. No fault to my parents, just different tradition and setting. But I've experienced, and then I want my kids to experience as well.
And we can do that with our kids now.
Yeah.
Today, there's more opportunities that churches are bringing back, and some traditions that churches are bringing back. When I was a kid, this is 40 years ago. No, 45 years ago. Oh boy. So we would watch the Jesus of Nazareth 1977 version. That was really amazing. Every year we'd watch Jesus of Nazareth leading into Easter.
Yeah.
And then our church had a Good Friday vigil. And we'd walk into church and it was dark and it was quiet and there was black wrapped around the cross. And then we had a service, and I just remember being so overcome with awe of Jesus and that he died. And then the parents would go home and the kids would stay overnight in the church. And up in the middle of the night, we would get up and go have a little time, like a half hour in the scriptures. So we'd walk down the aisle of the church and the candles were lit. It was dark, and we'd have our flashlight to read the Bible and pray and go back down. And then the next day we had a celebration. And then, of course, we had Sunday. We didn't stay through Sunday, but we came back Sunday, and it was just all joy, the white on the cross. And it was really a word picture for me as a child to see, to feel, to understand the depth of it. More than just hearing about it, but actually experiencing those different, aspects of Easter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that really stuck with me. And I think about it to this day. And I did a few things with my own kids when they were young, but times change. But I just remember that being really special and helping me understand the blessing and miracle of what Jesus did.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are tangible moments that stick with you.
And I think kids really kind of align with that way of learning. They gain a lot from that.
Yeah.
So I love that
and
the church does the stations, and that Good Friday experience is really wonderful. So anything parents can do to bring that whole important 3-day biblical account of the death and resurrection to life for their kids would be super helpful and profound in their faith development.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really, the heart of Lent, what it began as was the early church would have new believers get baptized on Easter Sunday, and they had them do a 40-day preparation for that baptism. And then over time, the church was like, hey, actually, that's kind of cool. I want to do it too. And so then other believers joined into that 40-day preparation. And so that's what Lent came out of. And it's really lost a lot of that for sure for people. But you look at that like, hey, it's not just a Catholic or a Lutheran thing. Like, that's a church history thing of a time of preparation. And so I encourage parents too, like we're close to Easter at this point, but in general, like approaching Lent from okay, let's give up chocolate, not just that perspective, but like, what can we do as a family to see it as a time of preparation for Easter Sunday? And then when you have those Good Friday moments, and then the joy of Easter Sunday then is more vibrant.
Right.
And you understand it, and kids really latch onto that, and it sticks with them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for being with me today and sharing more about your message and just helping us prepare as we give God all glory and praise for Easter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. What a great conversation that was with Pastor Zach. I so appreciate his time with us. And it just reminds me of that sweet promise that Jesus has for us, that he is with us in the midst of every storm that we go through. We just have to trust him. In the passage in Matthew, it goes back to saying, Jesus says, be of good cheer. It is I, and do not be afraid. So when we're in those storms, his response to us is, be positive. I'm here. I'm with you. As he approached the boat, and Peter says, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you. And Jesus says, come. And Peter gets out of the boat and he reaches for Jesus. And he's actually on the water experiencing the power of God. But of course, as we do as humans, we can become distracted and worry and fear with everything we see around us, not realizing Jesus has us. But we start to sink, but he retains that hold on us as we rely on him and have faith. As Peter sunk, Jesus says to him, oh, you have little faith. And he got in the boat with Peter and the rest of the disciples, remaining in unity with him as the storm settled. And so that's the word, is remaining in Christ, remaining close to him. In Psalm 46:10, it says, be still and know that I am God. So if we just allow him to lead us and trust him, he will take us through every storm that we experience. Now, as we head into Easter, I just want to encourage everyone to think about Easter beyond the typical traditions. Diving into the Word with your children, attending an experience where you can go through Good Friday, praying together and being in the Word with your family. These are all ways that we can really reflect on the gift that God gave us through sacrificing his son and the pain and the struggle that was. But then we can be rejoicing on Easter morning with the resurrection. What a great honor it is to be able to do this together in community. And I just pray for each one of our audience members to have a very blessed Easter and precious time with your family. Next week, we are having a special podcast where we'll have a roundtable and we'll have a little bit of fun. Our school is on spring break. We are in the office and we are going to just banter a little bit. So I encourage you not to miss that episode. But in the meantime, enjoy your time together, enjoy Easter, and God bless. We'll see you next time.